The idea of this program is to not only explore cultures of the world, but to get our audience and our viewers to be familiar with richness outside the border of this great subcontinent of the United States. And as a matter of fact, this is not a new discovery. This is not a new revelation. It's a fact of life that there is a richness everywhere, even in what some people like to call the third world or the developing world. There are richness and heritage and values. And we've tried to integrate all this into the modern, wonderful, advanced technological world of the United States. And that's why people like Armando Duarte, the legendary professor of dancing in the University of Iowa, is here again with us in a new episode to show us part of his work that not only reflects his rich heritage, but also the meaning of life in general and relationships. And I've been intrigued by your work, Armando, over the years. Since I saw you first time when you first came in 1993, and you had this beautiful portrait where you hide part of your face. I just remember,
famous trademark.
Yes, and then I just followed you throughout the years, and I was lucky to have a very good friend of mine, Professor Senner, who was in your department, and he got me to be, living in the department, although I was working in a different place. But I became so attached to this department because for me, not only as I claim to be an artist, not only as an artist, but as a human being, dancing incorporates everything. It's poetry, it's music, it's feeling, it's value, it's drama, it's anguish, it's anger, it's nostalgia, it is melancholy, it's everything together in one little movement where the body reacts to all that by moving a couple of muscles. And then when I became an anatomist and studied very well the anatomy of the body, and you did too, as a physical educator, the muscles are not only pieces of flesh, but they can transmit all the feeling into an action. And when I look at your work, and we will have the privilege to see one of my fascination, that I think for me it's incredible. For me, as I described it before, it is the pinnacle of everything that I imagine art can do. And that's why I wanted everybody to see it through this service, which is Public Access TV. And this is a pure production of Public Access TV. We don't have any other sponsor except Public Access TV. And I thank you for being with us again for the second time, second episode. And now tell me, how do you come, Armando, with ideas for your choreography?
Yeah, well, first of all, like I said in the first episode, thank you for having me here. It's an honor and a privilege. I feel humbled by this experience, and I want to thank you, your viewers, and of course PATV for the support and how important that is, so we can continue artists, researchers in the humanities, in the science, to share the little bit of contributions that we eventually been able to bring to surface. during our existence. So thank you very much. Secondly, if you don't mind, just a very, very brief comment on this cultural background, culture. In teaching this course that one of the courses that I teach at the UI, which is the Brazilian Culture and Carnival, in preparing classes at the very beginning of the semester, I thought, I'm going to talk about the culture of Brazil. But I think before I do that, I want the students to talk about their own cultural background. So I gave an exercise for them to bring an assignment where they had to bring thoughts of their understanding of what is culture, what is their own culture, the family, the society, the places they live. And it was an amazing conversation what they had to share. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I wish I had documented there. So, and that served as, it was actually quite emotional, not in a stressful way, just emotional, like talking about their grandparents, talking about their gatherings around the table.
Passion.
Yeah, and what it makes this a reference for life. And it was wonderful because it's a channel for me then to talk about the culture that I understand of Brazil. And then within that, the culture of Carnival, et cetera, et cetera. So I just make that, because culture is everywhere. It defines who we are. It defines where we have been and where we would like to be, our visions. We can only progress forward if we look at the past. If we don't have that reference, we may lose sight of where we're going. And in times like this, where everything is so fast, technology brought us to a place that could even imagine 10, 15 years ago. But it seems that everything is done in a pace now that is easy to lose track, So I guess it's good then sometimes to, not to stop, just to have a pause and contemplate the present. And then perhaps reflecting about where we were and where we would like to go. I've been practicing that quite a while for this past few years. I don't know exactly when it started, but I feel comfortable at this moment of my life to reflect about it. Yeah? I don't know if that makes me a better man or a better artist, but definitely brings peace to this kind of inner, self. Now, where does ideas come from, choreography? Everywhere. I was raised in a culture that is very colorful, very vibrant. When we think of Brazil and we think of the tropics and we think about the landscapes and the diversity of the country and the diversity of people, it's quite rich. So my childhood in São Paulo had all those influences. Seeing people from different nations coexisting with people of different heritages and different ethnic backgrounds, even trying to recognize myself in terms of what is my heritage, am I white, am I black, am I brown, am I light brown, dark brown, whatever that concept is. I'm glad that I'm myself. That's a good thing. But then when I talk about art with people in general, I think I come from the belief that art is everywhere. It's in the way we walk, is what we dress, it's the concepts we have aesthetically about the world, how we like our furniture to be organized in a room, how we, all these things, the design that involve us. But just happens that some of us go into the arts because either you call instinct, a natural talent, a sincere passion, whatever that is, we want to work with that. We want to make it something else. We want to give the world or share with the world our impressions, either through writing or performing arts or visual arts, painting, dancing, acting, talking, singing. And perhaps the professionalization of that brings us to this moment that we consider ourselves experts. I study choreographer or I am a composer. But maybe it's not just because of technicality. It's because there is a lot of labor involved to understand the craft of doing something, right? So with that being in mind, I educate myself in dance from an early age, late teens, 18 years old to now, so it's almost 40 years in the field and all that. And so I consider myself lucky that I can share those experiences in a way of dancing. I don't know, I can't see myself doing something else.
Can I
yes, please.
Interject a question?
Of course.
Because a lot of people ask practicing artists, professional artists, even amateur artists, about the fact that are we really born with special talent, or it's a practice, or it's a luck, or it's a circumstances? I mean, you touched upon all that some people feel passionate or inclined or interested to pursue this. But do we have really in artists, I mean, do you feel that you had certain thing in you that is really special?
Once I was having this kind of discussion with a graduate seminar class in dance, very intelligent people, passionate artists, younger, all grad students. And, I think one of the things we said, like, I don't consider an artist like someone with superpowers or anything, right? It's someone that has headaches, that misses someone, that likes to call the girlfriend the boyfriend, that loves lasagna. It's a normal people. But there is something about the craft of what the person does that somehow reached out a great deal of people. There is a song in Portuguese by a composer named and singer Milton Nascimento. He's in his 70s now. In Portuguese, the song says, certas canções me alcançam, falam bem dentro de mim. Que perguntar carece, como não fui eu quem fiz? A few songs, they reach me so deep inside that I have to ask myself, how come I did not create that? And I think, in a simple way, is a great definition for what art is. So when you watch a dance, my mother, when she started coming to concert to see me dancing, we don't come from a family that had a background, artistic background, and I was the first one. And I don't know if I'm going to be the only one. But the point is that a lot of times I would say, so mother, what do you think of what you saw? I was so excited, right? After, and she would say, well, I don't understand much. And then I would say, no. It's not about what you understood. We may get there, but how did it make you feel? And then the woman would talk for half an hour, no stop, about things that she felt so close to or not at all. And I think art is a little bit of that. We read a poem, maybe the way the words flow, maybe we listen to a pop song of some kind and we go like, wow, that's the groovy or so. Or we see a painting of someone, not because someone is famous, just something that, based on our understanding, aesthetics, we feel touched by. I think that's when art happens. Or we watch a play, we feel touched by the character. And now in dance, it's a little bit tricky because you have a great deal of abstraction. And within that in mind, it's like, what is it? Going back to my work in your first question, I don't know what is it, but I come from a very movement-oriented training. By that, it's not about legs up here or several turns. It's not just the acrobatic aspect of it. But there is something that I think about movement that you put it so well that we don't have to put it down in words. We don't have to explain a lot. It's nice to have a concept, yes. It's nice to have an idea base, a statement I want to make it. But there's something about the movement that should be compelling enough for viewers to observe and feel compelled by, feel touched by. Either if they're going to like it or not, but they feel something in that moment. That is the experience that I try to provide.
You are a teacher.
I'm a dance teacher.
Yeah. And when you teach, and we have seen in the first episode how do you relate to your students and how they relate to you? And we heard them talking about their feedback and their impression about you as a special teacher. When you teach them, and I saw you allow them certain degree of improvisation.
Yeah, that's one of the tools we use it depending on the process.
Right.
Definitely.
So tell me, how do you do this? I mean, imagine that you are teaching somebody now.
Yeah. Well, first let's put it this way. If it was a cooking show,
yeah,
it's not a recipe that you just go like, 2 spoons of this, 3 of this, 100 pounds of this, whatever. Sorry, 1 pound of this or so. Okay. So it's not like that. There's no formula. I think depending what you wanna say as a choreographer, and then your dancers become your collaborators. So within those possibilities, those possibilities of process, there is the choreographer coming into a studio and telling the dancers, this is what we're going to do. And then everybody does, and I'll turn, now go, now you enter running as she's doing this, and then you leap, and then you grab her hand, so you choreograph. But there is also a process that you have the idea, and that idea is not yet solidified in movement. You have some ideas, but not exactly all the movement phrase, and that's a gift. That's when you talk with your dancers, either professional dancers or not, and you create an environment where they're going to elaborate some movement ideas based on the input you gave to them. So, in this case, in my craft, when I deal with choreographers related to my native Brazil, then eventually have music that have Portuguese lyrics or so, I have to inform the dancers what that is about it. So they have a background so they can understand. As I'm growing older in the field, and the body starts to change as well, and it has been a while that I consider the dancers, like within the University of Iowa, we get a great mixing of dance talents. We have very good movers in our department. Hooray for the hawk dance. I rely on them to elaborate movement ideas based on what my thoughts, feelings are. I gave them some directions and then they go. In this way, I keep my eyes alerting for the information I'm receiving, and then I start to choreograph. So and so did the movement. Let's say, honey, can you turn around and step on your right and then place your hands on the floor? I'm not saying to you how you should do that. Then you come up with this kind of really nice revolving movement, and then suddenly you step big on your right leg and you put your hands on the floor. I was like, okay, honey, but can you do that? And as you're revolving, can you lift your one arm into the other arm and then make a gesture like you're giving something to someone and then fall? There we go. Now I'm choreographing. But honey came up with the idea of the movement. Now, Mary Jo, can you run or walk around him as he's doing that, but in the opposite direction? And let's do the phrase A that I taught you yesterday, when you let your arm fall and you reach out and then you put in your face. There we go. So I have Honey doing his movement, and then Mary Jo is walking around doing Armando's movement, and then she ended in the same position as Honey did. There we go. So we're choreographing statically, right?
This is kind of marriage between you, your ideas, and your dancers.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And very recently I started to, not recently, it has been a while. A lot of my process, I mean the last one I did for Dance Gala 2014, which was De Antônio Brincante Viramundo. In the program you see choreography, Armando Duarte, in collaboration with the dancers. Because I think I should honor them for the service they provide in this collaboration. Not that they created movements only. It's not about that. It's an effort. It's a collaborative effort. I may say, look, can you lift this woman here with the leg going this way, and then you turn around and then you place her on the floor and she goes on her knee. But I need the dancers to try to find the most effective way of doing. And then I look at it, and then I put my aesthetics on it. You know, and then the music, which for me is integral. I think modern dance, contemporary dance, that's not a rule, but I see a lot of works where somehow there is a sound environmental thing, which is great, either if it's electronic or a collage of sounds, and I think they should be used. But sometimes it's very distant to what's happening here. I like it to bring it together if it's possible. I like to investigate the possibility that through my movement you listen to the music in a way that you wouldn't otherwise. Okay. I like that. That is very dear to me. But I don't make mouse the music. No. 5, 6, 7, it's not about that. It's just how it flows, how my body calls your attention to a certain texture that is present in the music. Otherwise, I always, when I'm talking with students in choreography, I say, you got to be very careful when you get musics that are very popular. People may close their eyes, because why would they see you moving? So you have to have something to say on the top of that. That then within that, you bring liveliness to the sound scores. Now, I have done pieces in silence. I have done pieces with compositions that were like challenging for the audience in a way. I have done pieces with music that was so vibrant and colorful that I had to keep a level of physicality up here. And in this case of Brazil, depending where you choose, it's like great percussive music, very textural, like different instruments counterpointing each other. So in this case, physically, you have to create an environment. It's like a mosaic. So the audience sees not only the movement, but movements. It's plastic. It's alive. It's like seeing a Kandinsky painting, or not comparing my work to Kandinsky, just what else? The work we're going to see today, I believe it's one of your favorites among others.
It is actually.
Noiva, right? Yeah. Sometimes the choreography also in the process has a concept, an idea that the choreographer wants to work with. For Noiva in this case, and then I'll let you help me with your questions or comments about it, I use the idea of bridesmaids and the ritual in where bridesmaids in our society prepares this woman for this institutionalized moment. Call it wedding. I've been curious about nothing against or in favor, but just like all these things we do before, they're kind of bizarre in a way. These parties, getting the woman walking downtown, wearing funny things, making her drink whatever, doing like this. And for the guy as well.
Bachelor party and bachelorette.
Which is great and it's fun, but at the same time, there's a cruelty into it. There's some bizarre humor,
in this kind of initiation.
The piece is not about that, but was based in this idea. Right. So then in this case, I was watching a long, long time ago. There was a movie that it's one of my favorites in my movie. I'm a big movie fan. It's called My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And I remember this scene where the bride, the main character, she's in her bedroom, almost in tears, considering if this would really work out. Her Greek family with that guy, American, upper class, from the Hamptons, whatever, that lives in Chicago, and then as she was having this mini crisis, the director shows the camera all these other women running all over, fixing their hairs, screaming with those big dresses and kind of, I was like, isn't that interesting? And then I watch other movies that had not same, but similar situations. And then I was like, one day, I would like to do something about this. My view of it, my abstraction of this theme. And then I shared the idea with the dancers, and the rest is history. Noiva became to life in 2012. I'm extremely happy. It is indeed, humbly saying, one of my favorite works as well. In what I've done.
Some of the commentators and some of the people who saw this, and we went into extensive discussions because, as I said in my introduction, for me, this was a culmination art integration between a lot of things. And, a lot of symbolism there,
Yeah.
a lot of poetry there, a
Thank
lot
you.
of mystery and eerie things. And,
Yeah.
and all these are together. And that's why I have selected this to be a whole show in this production, because I want everybody to enjoy it. Not only the specialized...
I hope they will.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the specialized people. But back again to the beginning, some of the commentators asked why there was not one man in the whole show.
Yeah. I like the idea of absence. In this case, perhaps if one day I do a second version of the subject, I may add men. Perhaps I do a piece only with men and no women, treating the same subject, but now from a male's perspective. In this case, what I wanted is to present to the viewers this space where you see this lonely figure that we're going to call the bride, and she's basically transparent. She's not nude. We see her only with the underwear that she's going to be wearing. And in this case, I had Maddie Curry was my soloist, a senior that year, phenomenal dancer, and quite an interesting figure, very, very energetic eyes, and quite interesting. I was very interested in the way she moves and all that. So I wanted to place this
Where
bride.
is she now, this dancer?
She, I believe she's in Chicago and pursuing her dance dreams. Yeah, I don't have much information, but like many of our undergrads, they go and we just pray that they go to the arts. But it takes a while. I mean, it's not something that happens overnight. It have to be perseverance, focus, objective, And it's very important. If it was for us, it is for them now, and will be for the next generation. To be an artist, it starts with you, but there's so many other elements involved in the career, where you want to be, with whom, how you get to that possibilities in space that you are, how do you create liaisons, how do you get funding, how do you associate yourself with the dance or artistic community of those places? Those are step-by-step things. And it eventually happens. I mean, we can talk about so many people that made it from 100 years ago to now. They're still making, right? But it takes a while. You got to be just focused. And like the Daruma dolls in the Japan folk tales, Daruma dolls are the dolls that never falls, right?
Right.
In life, you have to fall 7 times in order to stand up 8. You got to keep that very clear. Very clear. Okay. So, but anyway, going back to Noiva, so I want to place this main character, which is on the stage for the entire time, by the way, the 16 minutes of the piece, in this lonely, warm space, but completely empty, deprived from anything. And around her, you have all these brides that are constantly smiling. Not a fake smile, but those eerie, I guess you use the word eerie. When people are talking to you and it's like, it gets to a point that it's this almost surreal.
Sardonic.
Yeah, it's just that thing, right? That after 30 seconds, you start to really wonder where you are.
Right.
So they had to work that out, their interpretation, the dancers, the brides, the bridesmaids, because it wasn't something easy.
So I'm sorry, but I didn't want to interrupt you, but you brought this question that has been in my mind for quite some time. It's not only the body as a whole work choreography. You work on the face too, right?
Oh, I think
the expression,
the interpretation. I mean, to dance, one can just say, "Oh, their movement." right? Of course. That's
And
why we call this.
Anybody that's watching us now, right this moment, can see how animated you are. I mean, as a person.
I guess it's the
no,
thing
and
about
your
moving
face,
the body.
Your face. I mean, your face is.
We try to avoid, unless if it's really the intent, choreographically speaking, to rely everything on the facial expression. You know, we try to avoid that. That has to be a result of the embodiment of a situation. For instance, during the creative process, when we about to finish the work and we start to run the piece, like fully runs and then notes and then run again, and the dancers are tuning small details and things, I always mention to them, do you know what is the difference, especially here, that we deal with young dancers, right? They're preparing themselves to become, hopefully, professionals in the field. Do you know the difference between a dancer and a performer? Let's talk a little bit about that. What it makes a performer. And then we talk about different things. That is in addition to everything that has been said from the day one of the process. Meaning, what that you are interpreting on a stage. And that is not necessarily for choreographers. They're like a narration of something, a storytelling. Once upon a time, there was Mary and John, and they were happy forever. So it's not that kind of narrative. It can be abstracted too. What is your presence? You know, what is your focus? What is the story behind your presence? So in Noiva, that was very rich, that process, because being bridesmaids, as I said, and they were constantly moving around her, constantly.
And pulling her. And,
to a point that physically touched her, enticed her, lift her, checking her, you know, like we do. That's, you know, beauty parlor. And this, and let's check the dress, and let's check this, and let's check, you know, it's this whole thing that also makes me wonder if we're taking care of the individual inside. Are you okay? Or if it's all about, you know, you should wear this, you should wear that, you should let me look at your nails. It's like this whole thing, which is great too. I'm not, maybe I sound like I'm a criticizer, I'm not, but this is what I observed. So within that, then we had bridesmaids there, and they all dressed in like bigger than life dresses.
Right.
Remember, like Cinderella going to a ballroom, you know, that kind of, you know, with flowers, you know, that's really grotesque. And that's why I guess the composition of the face too was something not grotesque, but eerie. In the hair, you know, bigger than life, that's my big fat Greek wedding, you know. Like, and there was this figure which I let up for interpretation, which was perceived as a female figure, and she was, tall, slim figure, that was always surrounding the environment, carrying a bunch of white flowers, beautifully dressed, with a dress that was not white, but off-white with some shades of blue and gray and other colors there, which in my mind, given away, but in the mind of the creator was a kind of idealistic figure, perhaps a subconscious of what this bride was thinking about it. And she comes from this mini altar, but the altar is not something you would see in a church. It's just like an altar, surrounded by little lights, blue lights, you know. And I kept that figure, you know, and she was very candid, very, very polite, if I will, in the midst of all these movements. And she never interacted with the main character, the bride, except for the last section when they then embrace, if I will, each other. And they mime each other first, and then they started to get into each other, and then they walk up these stairs.
But Armando, whatever the philosophy behind this,
thank you.
I won't tell you that was in many. I think I did talk to you when we had the interview for the Press Citizen. I did talk to you about the fact that a lot of people saw it as love affair between these two women, and that as a time they didn't get into the interpretation that this is maybe let us see, the epitome of what she's looking for. But to be at least from a pure non-philosophical image interpretation, to be a pioneer and show this kind of intimacy between two women was definitely a very progressive initiative that you have done, and you have to get credit for. Because when you did that, it was kind of taboo to do that. Yeah, I mean, we are used to see a man hugging a woman and interacting with her and uniting with her. But in this one, when they dissolve into each other, that was significant.
Yeah.
And the good thing about this piece of art, and I'm sorry to interrupt you for a long time.
No, absolutely.
Is the fact that it carries a lot. You find the interpretation that you like. It's coming from you. And that's the element, the beauty of modern art, is that we fuse, we add from our experience, from our feeling into what we're seeing.
Yes. Once I heard from a famous choreographer that sometimes you create the work in the psychological aspect of is done by the viewer. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. By saying this, I first didn't have that intent of raise a flag about this or that, but obviously there is that element there because of the interaction. I even thought that at the very end, maybe a male figure should walk in, and then, you know, this mother figure, if I will, or saint, angelical figure would then give the bride away. But then I was like, no.
Yeah,
she just walks in and she disappears in the dark. She looks back at the audience and that's it.
Leave the mystery to
Leave it the mystery. And you do the psychological
do it
work.
as you wish.
But from my heart, I did not try to do any political statement in that sense or so. I just did. Some of my works, and Noiva is one of them, I like to work with large groups. By large groups, I always call more than 8, 9 dancers, then it becomes larger. I like the craft of. I like to see several people moving together, or not necessarily in unison, but within the same environment. And I also like collages. And in this case of Noiva, even though I am from Brazil and great part of my repertoire is based on my heritage in terms of Brazilian culture, Noiva, there's not about Brazil there besides the choreographer. So the soundtrack, which I love to my heart, it had Pascal, which is a Swiss composer. He had Jan Tersen, which is a French composer. He had David Lang, which is an American composer, alumni from Iowa. And he has Bach. And I received several, one of the cello sonatas from Bach. And I was so humbled by the experience. I received so many emails following the performance. And that closed Gala 2012. Okay, so there was the ending piece of Gala and all that. And the audience really participated. It was so gratifying. The dancers were like so taken, you know. But the point is that one of the emails I received said, and to close the piece with the Bach cello. So the comment was more towards the way they ended than actually a certain statement or so, which for me proves that each person will view in different ways. And that's the beauty. You open the channel and let they immerse, or open the door, let they come and have their sense. Maybe that's what we call art.
The music plays a major role in what you do.
Yeah.
And I have this little piece from this poet that you like him very much, Fernando
Pessoa, Portuguese, one of my favorites.
And he wrote in one of his pieces something about you. He said, "My soul is a hidden orchestra." I know not what instruments, what fiddle, strings and herbs, drums and tambourine are sound or do sound and clash inside myself and fight. All I hear is the symphony within me. That so much expresses Armando using the music in this philosophical, lyrical, poetic interpretation of life. I don't know how we can celebrate our luck to have you here. Armando, it has been a delight having you in these two shows, and I wish we have more shows to show you.
You can count on me anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am sure that the audience and our viewers will ask for more from you. And all what I want to finish with is I wish that the new president of the University of Iowa and the University of Iowa prove to us that dance department is as important as any other department. I need some support there. Yeah. I was visiting you, I was visiting your office, and I have to tell you, it's totally different from some of the offices in other schools and the other colleges. But your work is not less than what they do, maybe even more.
Thank you.
To this note, I salute you, wish you a very good night, and let us spend the rest of the evening with Noiva and dream together.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy. Thanks again for the opportunity. And just want to close my presence here saying that we shall not forget the arts. It's one of the pillars of humanity, and I'm no joking about. In the University of Iowa, if it stands where it is today, for all the great research that has been done here in science and the humanities, it's also for the great work the artists and art instructors are done here in all the IS. I feel privileged. And I'm looking for the next few years as I go into now, perhaps my golden years as a professor here, that we're going to strive for the best in the arts. I would be highly disappointed if it happens otherwise.
Thank you.
Thank you.